Hello, beautiful people. Thank you for being here for another video. I finally want to actually just bring up the map of consciousness and speak about this concept of power versus force, because you may have heard me mention it in a few videos now. And what I really want to speak to is what I'm actually referencing when I mention this and my own recent personal experiences of this. So before I bring up the diagram and go a bit deeper into it, first I just want to really speak to the concept, and it comes from a book called Power versus Force by David Hawkins, and he's got his map of consciousness, and basically there's different levels of emotions that we can move through as humans and different states that move us up this map of consciousness and into being more enlightened beings. And so basically the concept is that power comes from within and is based on principles such as integrity, courage, and compassion, whereas force is external and relies on fear, coercion, and manipulation. And so when we understand this difference, we can make really conscious choices about how we want to operate in our personal and professional lives. And so why I'm really honing in on this a lot lately is because I've really noticed the difference in when I have myself been operating from states of power versus force. And sometimes we may think we're in our power, but we've outsourced it to other people because we've thought they know better than us, or they have more than us, or we've bought into the mind kind of manipulations that have been happening. And this is a lot of what I don't like about the online personal development and marketing world, and why I've often struggled in this world is because I've personally believe that there is a lot of that emotional manipulation happening, and there is a lot of this bringing people out of their power to then make them invest, to then tell them that you're helping them get their power back. And I don't believe in that kind of way of marketing. When there has been times where, you follow the steps to, this is how to write a sales page, and this is the marketing formula, and speak to people's pain points so they come in and act on an emotional state, and then you're taking their power, and then they're feeling drawn in. And I've been on the receiving end of that, and obviously that's my learning and my journey, and I'm not going to blame other people because I made the choices. But that's also not to say that this stuff shouldn't be called out, and that there's not a better way for us to be operating in this world right now. And as people are moving up this scale, and as the levels of consciousness are shifting on this planet, I think this is why we're noticing a lot more people speaking out about this stuff, and why we're noticing a lot more people being way more discerning in how they invest and who they invest in and who they trust, and being a bit more cautious about the way they invest, like throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars in the hopes that maybe that might be your ticket to freedom, is not necessarily going to be the best answer if it's going to put you in a state of stress and survival where you can't even then show up, and then you have to do these things operating from a place of force to try and get that back so that you're not in this. So can you see how there's like this cycle that gets perpetuated when we're not operating from power? And so power isn't always about like being in light and being in a state of people pleasing and saying yes to things. It's more about having the courage to be in truth and being in authenticity and hold true to ourselves and know, like, I've got me and I'm here for me. And just because this person is dangling something in front of me, maybe it's not the right thing for me, and I get to make a choice. I always have sovereignty and agency and control over what I decide. So that's kind of my interpretation and what I've experienced recently. And also where it comes from is like power doesn't necessarily always mean being high vibe and positive. Power means being honest and authentic. And if right now your honest, authentic state is, oh my God, like I don't know what I'm doing and I'm stressed out and I'm not sure where I'm going to make money, and like, and that's your genuine state, then own that and don't have shame in it, because that's the problem, is there's so much shame attached to these lower vibration emotions and things that we think, oh, it's wrong to feel angry, it's wrong to feel upset, and so it gets suppressed. And then that's when we start to operate from these inauthentic places. And that's when we outsource our power and lose our power, because we're not actually being truthful and honest. Whereas if we just sat in the ickiness, as uncomfortable as it might be, and as not fun it can be to face ourselves and to look at our situation sometimes that is the most important thing we can do, because then that's how we shift it. We sit in it, we face it, we move beyond it. But you can't move beyond it if you're not willing to face it. Now that I've had that rant, let me bring up this map of consciousness that I have been speaking about. Okay, so basically, this is the map of consciousness, and it's developed by David Hawkins. And as you can see, there's different layers and different emotions, and these move us up different paradigms. So you've got the lowest states, which is your shame and your guilt and your apathy and your grief. And then you move beyond that into fear, desire, and anger. And these are all in the survival paradigm. Beyond that, you've got pride, courage, and then that's still that's oscillating between survival and moving into reason and integrity. And then that's where we get to neutrality, willingness, and acceptance, and reason. And then this moves us into the spiritual paradigm, which is love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. Now, there's something that I learned last year from one of my really good friends and mentors, and he created this thing called the spiral, not spiral dynamic, just the spiral. It's like moving through these layers, like through it's based on the chakra system and like kinesiology and muscle testing, and you move through the layers, and you can actually use muscle testing to check what state you're operating in at the moment and to see what your level of consciousness is. Now, I'm not even going to try to explain how to do it. I haven't even played with it in probably over a year now. But it's a really cool thing to do, to like actually take time to check in with yourself and see like, okay, so what am I feeling right now? What state am I in? And like check with your muscle testing and see where am I sitting, and then do things and clear the things within your system, and notice how quickly you can snap out of that state and move up that map of consciousness when you actually allow yourself presence with what's there. So it's a really important tool to ensure we're not bypassing what is there and what needs to be felt. And I feel like what we're witnessing in the world at the moment and what's happening around us, there's a lot of people in survival paradigm. There's a lot of, and I'm not immune to it. I still feel fear, and I still sometimes feel shame and guilt and apathy and grief. Like it's all part of the human experience. And I don't think anyone is fully enlightened 24/7. Like none of us is pure consciousness, but it's something we can aim towards. And by being aware of these things, that's how we shift beyond these states. And that's how we can stay in those higher places. And this is where, like you'll see in the reason and integrity section, you've got acceptance, willingness, and neutrality. So it's not about ignoring what's going on in our lives. It's not about ignoring the very real things that may be causing struggle or pain right now, but it's about coming to a place of acceptance and having a willingness to be with it and be present with it and face it, and then you can move beyond it. So let me give you a prime example from the start of this year. Like, I was obviously at home in Perth, a place I did not want to be. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I had money owing for these fines for my license stuff that happened the year before. I was feeling really angry and frustrated. I was also feeling the grief of everything that's happening in the world, the wider world. I was feeling a lot of, and then I was feeling like shame and guilt for if I was feeling happy and feeling good and feeling joy in my life because other people are suffering. And then if I was feeling upset because I'm suffering, I was judging myself because I shouldn't be upset and I shouldn't feel sad. Like, my situation's nowhere near as bad as what other people are feeling. And so there was all of this stuff going on. And I was sitting in that a lot, but I was also at the same time pushing myself because I was like, well, the only way to get through this is to make money. I need my money is going to solve my problems. So I'm just going to force myself to work and work and work. And being in an environment where everyone around me was doing like 9 to 5 work, or corporate world where they work even longer hours, that was my environment at the time. So I was like, just work, work, work. And so I was in that state of force. I was in survival paradigm. I was like, I need to change my situation. And all I know how to do is just bury myself in work and push through, ignore all of this stuff, push it down, push it down, push it down, because I just need to get the job done. I just need to keep going. I just need to show up. And so I was forcing and forcing and forcing and forcing. And my situation wasn't changing. And I was getting really angry because I was like, I'm doing all the things. I'm learning strategies. I'm trying hard. I'm doing the things that I should have been doing last year that I let go. And then one day I just was like, I just need to get away from everything. I went and sat at the beach, and I think I cried all day at the beach. And because for me as well, I'd been in this state where the last few years I was very much in an emotional process, and I was always doing the emotional process work. And so I was like, I can bury that. I don't need to do that. Like, when I'm ready to do that, I'll do it. I know how to, I've got the tools. I know how to do that. I'm not bypassing. I'm not ignoring. I'm just focusing on something that's more important right now. That was kind of my mentality. And of course, naturally, when we suppress and suppress and suppress and suppress, it all like bubbles up, and it all erupted one day. And I remember I was just like in the park down the road, and I called my mom, and I was just crying, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. And it was also in that moment that I connected with God, like, which is a really interesting thing for me to speak to, because obviously growing up Catholic and going through the church and not buying into the church, like, there's a lot of deconditioning and unraveling I've had to do around that. And so to then find this connection with God, but in a really pure, deeper way, where it was actually like, it's just a relationship between me, rather than this church telling me how the relationship needs to be. It was really beautiful. And I started journaling. Like, I've always journaled every day, but my journaling became like conversations. And I got to the point where I was like, just show me what I need to do. I don't know what to do anymore. Like, I am willing to do anything, was basically the point I got to, where it was like, okay, I get it. I'm in this position. Maybe I don't love it, but I'm here. I'm going to make the most of it. I'm accepting it. I'm going to do what I can with what I've got. I'm going to show up for myself. I'm going to take responsibility. I'm going to organize, like get things organized. And I got to that place of acceptance, and I was willing to do things that I'd been putting off and ignoring the whole time, like speak to counselors and pay off the fines, like put them on payment plans and things like that. So I took action to actually improve my situation. And in doing that, then things started to shift. I was like, oh yeah, I've moved up. I'm out of survival paradigm and I've moved into reason and integrity. And from that place, you can operate with so much more clarity and you can actually take more action and you can get stuff done. And then from there, I've obviously shifted more because now I'm traveling, I'm doing what I love, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling joy, I'm feeling peace. I am just in awe, again, mesmerized by this giant Mount Etna right in front of me. And life is at a whole different level now. And so moving up that map of consciousness really helps us to see the beauty around us and really helps us to experience life in a different way. And sometimes it's not necessarily that our immediate circumstance has changed, but it's our response to that circumstance. It's how we're reacting. It's what we're doing in that circumstance. So that's the map of consciousness, and that's how we work with it. It's not about ignoring and bypassing these things that we think are bad feelings and negative feelings, because that's just like that love and light bypassy stuff, which doesn't actually help us move up. So moving up is by feeling the things and being in that ickiness sometimes. And it's like the whole lotus and the mud, but the lotus grows out of the mud. Like we've got to allow ourselves to sometimes sit in that yucky, muddy bit and then realize there's beauty there too. And then the beauty starts to become the thing that we see more and the thing that we hold on to more. And then the more we hold on to that, the more beauty we see. And then the more the beauty emerges. And then all of a sudden, our whole life is this beautiful, amazing, magical thing. And we're so grateful and we're so open and we're so excited and so ecstatic and so blissful that more and more keeps coming to us because we're operating from that different emotional state. So this is how we go from that state of force to that state of power. And then things flow with ease because then you're inspired. You're not forcing your work. You're doing it because you're like, oh my God, there's just all of this energy moving through me and I've got so much I want to share, and life is happening with me and for me and through me. And there's so much that I can share with people, and I don't want to hold on to it and hold it back because I know that the more I give, it's like a moving energy thing and you keep receiving with giving and receiving. And so you just then keep opening to more. And so that's how the map of consciousness works in my understanding. And this is what I'm speaking about when I speak to power versus force. So I just wanted to share that with you and hopefully give you a visual representation of what you might hear me speaking about in a lot of the videos when I talk about these things. Thank you for watching, and I hope that was helpful.